In this lesson, we will take a look at the component tag, and component tag or character component tag is a backbone of technical developing for this character slash builder object in Sina 4D. Now, we have three objects here, which are not really something you would write home about, but they will certainly help us to build a reusable asset with that component tag. The component tag inside Sina 4D is used to create this character template. So anything that you can see here is built with the component tag, and that component tag is really scary, but I think this is the best example that will both serve as a method to simplify that component tag and also to show that this character object slash builder can be really misleading with naming, because we will actually build something that has absolutely nothing to do with characters whatsoever. Now, the first thing you want to do, let me just delete this character template. The very first thing you want to do, you want to create a null object in most of the cases and use that as a parent object, as a root object, or as a origin of a complete system that you want to build. So in our case, we will use these three simple elements to create a reusable asset, which is a simple road. And that road will appear under this drop-down menu of templates. Okay, I hope that is easy to understand. So let's dive in, and first we will rename our object road. So something really logical, because we want to build a road. And first I will subordinate all these elements under that road, like this. And now comes really geeky technical part, which is adding this character. We just scale this window a bit so you can see what I'm adding. So character component, and this is misleading because it can do so much more. Let's just reset that layout. It can do so much more than creating character components, and as you can see, this is quite a few of tabs and options, and this is a huge stupendous system. And I know it is a little bit scary, but let me show you a simple example how to build something, and you can proceed from there. Now, whenever you will be dealing with such a huge system, which is completely new to you, it is a really good idea to break down the system into logical parts, because if you will be looking at this all at once, then it simply won't make any sense. But as with everything in Sina 4D, things are quite logical, and here, just as in our builder, we have multiple tabs which are pretty much a section for themselves. So each one of these tabs is dealing with a different category. So here is a basic tab, which is common. Here is a tag tab, which is a little bit abstract. So for example, this insertion tab is all about how your elements will be inserted. So here you can define where, when, how they will be inserted and stuff like that. So mirroring, it's pretty much self-explanatory. So this is what you will include, what will happen to selections, what you will bind, what do you want to adjust, which will be the hotspots, nodes, animate what happens via that add walk button we did in a character slash builder object. And of course you can use Python to code something even more complex than already existing, and advanced tab and stuff like that. Now, what you can see now is a basic component tag, which looks this way by default. Now, it also changes its appearance according to what is set in some of the tabs, so it can also be a little bit misleading and confusing. To keep things simple and clean, we will use only these two tabs, this tag and insertion. So we will define our system and create some insertion rules for our components, because here is our goal. We want to have an option to have, let's say, 3 buttons in our character template, and one of them would be, let's say, straight, other one would be left, and let's say that this would be right. Now, by clicking these guys, we would actually build the road, so our elements would be building in a logical manner. So if I would hit straight, it would add 1 straight. If I would hit left, it would create 1 left, and of course if I hit right, it would create 1 that goes right. So it would be an reusable asset, which is really simple to use, but unfortunately not so easy to build. So I think you understand what I'm trying to achieve here, so let's proceed. Let's select our component tag, and first thing we will do, because this is our origin of the complete system, this is the central point, we will define it as a character, because that really instructs this component tag to look at the complete system from the object to which this component tag assigned with character type as a root of everything. And you see that this component tag now changed, and that is that dynamic changing. And if you remember, all characters coming from our character builder are facing this way, and they're facing this way because this setting is pretty much common to all of them. So -z is pointing forward. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Now, if you want to build elements in this direction, then this is z plus, so we have to change that. Let's set this to z plus. And vertical, which means up or down, is y, so we will leave that as a default. And here you can enter a name for your system, and in our case this will be, let's call it VP, which will stand for Vertex Pusher Road. And that's it. That's all you have to define for your system. So let's actually now save our complete system as a template. So you don't have to have anything selected. Simply go here under Character, Character Builder, and save Character Template as, and you have to save in this folder, this default folder that's in App4D will offer you upon creation. So let's call this VP underscore road save. Now let me just temporarily hide this. So now if I choose my character builder, here under template I will also get my VP road, and currently doesn't contain any elements because we simply haven't built any of them. Okay, so this is really simple. So let's delete this guy, and we will save our template on a regular basis as we make some progress. Now, first I will hide this left and right guy. So let's first build in this guy as a component, which will be shown once we select that character template, which will be shown as a button named straight. And to do that, I have to define it as a component also. Now, here is an important part, because this can be a little bit misleading. Only anatomical types and this custom type will appear in the template as a button. For example, this controller will not be accessible if you define your component as a controller, and I really hope this is not too complicated. So let's select custom, because road really doesn't fit the description of any of these guys, which are pretty much designed to work with biological creatures. So let's choose custom, and we can name it straight. And if you leave this name blank, it will use the name of the object it is assigned to. Now, there are a lot of slots here and buttons and list types, but let's not worry about them for a minute. So let's proceed to our insertion tab, because we defined our straight polygon object as a custom component with its name. So that is all we have to do. Now we will here under insertion tab define where and how can it be added inside the system. So let's define which components can be parents of that straight component we are building. So let's hit add, select it, and of course we will get a bunch of menus, but this shouldn't really discourage you from this component tag. It's absolutely mind-blowing technical development tool. So now I will basically just instruct this object how, where, and under which conditions it can be inserted via those buttons we have in builder templates. Now let's translate this into common English. So currently I'm telling to this guy via this component tag that it can be inserted from the parent. I will allow multiple objects, so I can have a billion of them if I want, and everything, any object can be its parent, and that is really a fundamental way how you will work through this component tag. So let's actually now save our template once again. So save character template, and we can hide this temporarily and simply create a new template. And you see now we have that straight component. So this guy now, because we instructed it through this tag to appear here as a button. Okay, so let's see what will happen if I hit this button, and it creates one of these guys, so one copy of this guy. So since we said multiple, allow multiple objects, let's try it once again. And actually I get quite a few of them, but the obvious problem is they're all occupying the same space, which is certainly what I don't want. And for example, if I set this insertion rule to single, once I would hit this straight guy, then it would simply not be available again. Okay, I hope that that really makes sense, because I instructed just to be accessible once. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Let's get rid of this, and obviously we have a problem. Let's put this back to multiple. And the problem was that our straight piece of the road component was simply added in the same space when we actually would want maybe something like this. So the next guy should be created like this. So it should have an offset. And if I create another one, it should be added like this. So that's really simple to understand. So let's try to define that via this insertion rule. So my object is 100 centimeters in Z size. So if I instruct this insertion tab to offset my object for 100 centimeters upon insertion, then I will pretty much get what I need. So let's now actually save this once again. So we are saving the template, we are saving our progress like this, and temporarily hide this and create a new template. So VP road, and let's hit straight, and this is what we get now. So initially our guy is offset for 100 centimeter. Now if I hit this guy once again, it will actually do what I want. So it will stack them as it should. So we are effectively now have a straight road, the ability to create a road with clicking button. So a nice reusable asset. But this gap at the beginning is a pretty big problem, and we should solve that, because once we will be adding different components, so this left and right guy, they will also have to have that offset rule, otherwise we will have problems also. Now let's actually delete this guy and demonstrate that problem. So I will unhide this, and let me add a component tag as for this guy. So we will add a parent, we will tell it could be any parent, and we will instruct it to insert it from the parent and allow multiple, and let's put 100 as an offset here. And we can click off and simply save our template once again. Same thing, hide and build from the template. So now we have both a left guy and a straight guy. So let's try straight, straight, and then left. And here is a problem. You see, you actually cannot see that guy. Let's try something like this, and that is because it is hidden within this template by default. So you have to be aware of everything once you're creating those templates. So let's actually delete this guy. Let's unhide all, and let's save the template once again. So let's see the result. We will hide this, create new template. Let's see how it works now. And if I get this left guy, it seems okay, but at the first insertion. But watch what happens if I want to turn left once again. That is a huge problem, because it doesn't work as expected. You would expect this guy to go like this. Okay, so there is obviously something wrong, and there is a simple logical problem to this. Let's delete this, hide the visibility, and I will try to explain the problem. There are a couple of issues here now. The first issue is actually this offset value for these guys. So it won't work with offsets, because it will simply offset, and those components are inserted from the axis. So in case of a straight line, it will work fine, because this z-axis is pointing in a correct way. But it will also work for the left guy for one insertion. But if you want to add another, it will simply create this component as it is. It won't be rotated as it's supposed to be. And I hope you're still following now. To overcome this problem, and that is really important to understand the axis system, I emphasized that in volume 1 on many occasions. So first of all, you have to ditch these offset values, because it won't work that way, because you have components which are not the same, and they're, relatively speaking, changing direction. And you have to create a system where z, in case of a straight guy, is pointing like this. That is okay. But in case of, let's say, maybe left guy, it's pointing this way instead this way. So that is a big problem. Same principle applies for this right guy. And if you have 100 centimeter offset, that complicates things even more. Now, luckily, inside the component tag, there is a insertion rule which can help you a lot. Let me just pull this guy just a little bit. That rule is insert from hierarchy end. And this may not seem as something really useful, but consider this. If you create a null object as a child of each and every of these guys, here in the center of every edge of corresponding guy, which will point in z, so this guy should also point in z, same goes for this guy, and you instruct the insertion rule that any object can be a parent, so any of these guys can be inserted under any of these guys, which really sounds silly, but it's true. And it should be inserted at the hierarchy end. So wherever hierarchy ends in our character template, it will insert it there. Now, if I create, for example, let's create a simple null object. We will get rid of this null guy. So let's select that object, and I will use this character conversion selection to joints, and I will hold the shift key, which will create a joint exactly in the middle of that guy, and can actually convert the joint to a null. So I will convert it to a null. So my object, I will get rid of this joint, and this null will serve as a hierarchy end. So let's rename it end, like this, and I will put it as a child of a straight object component. I also think that it's always a good idea, once you are rigging or creating some sort of a setup, to help yourselves with these null objects, because you can display them as anything that is offered here. And in my case, I will choose a triangle, and as orientation, I will choose X, Z, and let's shrink it down a little bit and maybe use a color. So it will help me as the visual guide how that object should be pointing, relatively speaking. Now, as I said, this end object will serve as a hierarchy, and so I will change this to hierarchy end, and every new insertion of any object will happen after that end object. So effectively, anything that will be created in the position of this guy. So if this component will be created, it will be shifted in the correct place, because this axis is here. I hope you're still following, and that you haven't lost your concentration. And I'm deliberately making some mistakes, so you will be able to see the complete process. So let's save the template once again, hide these guys, and build from that template. So our VP road, and let's try straight. Let's try once again and watch what happens. We still have the same problem. It didn't offset our component, so that's really disappointing. Now let's delete this guy and change just one tiny thing here, and that is this local setting here. And this local means simply that the object will retain its local coordinates. So let's check that and save the template once again, like this. We will hide it once again, build from template. So let's give it a shot. Straight, straight, and there we go. That is exactly what we wanted. So now we solved pretty much the majority of the problem. And let me show you now the difference between insertion rules. For example, this left guy will be inserted from the parent. So in our template, for example, if we are at this last guy and we want to add a left turn, watch what will happen. And this will happen. This is simply not good, and the reason for it are settings within our component tag for that specific object. Now let's delete this, and let's fix that, and we will use the same logic for these left and right components. Now, sooner or later, you will see that technical developing of any kind can sometimes become really tedious, but that's the way it is. So let's delete this component, and we will build those two from scratch just to fortify what we learned so far. Now, you shouldn't forget anything. You have to copy this guy if you will be using this insertion rule, hierarchy end, to all these components or any other component you add if you want the next component to be created after the previous one. So let's copy our end null like this, and we will subordinate it as a child of this left object. Now, you see how useful that will be, because this null will actually tell us where is the right direction for our component. So how this null should be oriented. Now, I will snap it here to this left component. So I'm pressing P, enabling snapping, 3D snapping, edge snapping, and midpoint snapping. Now this guy will simply snap to the middle of this guy like this, and I will turn off snapping, and we said Z should point this way like this. So hope that is clear enough, because otherwise these guys won't be able to build themselves in consecutive manner. So this end guy, we will rotate it like this, so 90 degrees like this, and now the Z points this way. Let's do the same for our right guy. So we will copy this end null, subordinate it as a child, so it's the hierarchy end of any component you create. And we can of course enable snapping once again, and snap to this edge, which will be the starting point for next component, just as this one and this one. We will disable snapping, turn on our rotation tool, and simply rotate this for 180 degrees. So now the Z will point this way. Now it's time to add a component tag. So we are adding a component tag. We will name this guy left. And although it names with the name of the object which is assigned to, if this is left empty, I really like to name my objects. That is a really good habit. Okay, so we only need the name, and the type will be exactly the same as here. So custom type, because these guys really don't fit into description of that guy. So custom, let's hit the insertion tab. We will add a new insertion rule. We will tell that parent can be any object within the template. It can insert only at the hierarchy end. We will allow multiple insertion of that left object, and it will use its local coordinates. Let's check our template, and we will save our progress, save to character template, hide this, create a new builder or character object, and use the VP road template. So let's try straight, maybe left, once again left, maybe straight, so left again. So this really works. Now let's delete this guy, and we will do the same for this right guy. So I'm adding a character component. I'm defining it as a custom type. The name will be right. In insertion tab, I'm saying use anything as a parent, insert at the hierarchy end, allow multiple insertion of that guy, and inherit local coordinates. Okay, so that should be it. Now let's save this character template, collapse this, hide, and let's try to build our road. So once again, VP road, and now we have 3 guys. So let's give it a shot how this works, and keep in mind that this is really basic, but I'm pretty sure it gave you a good idea of how powerful this system is. So let's try it straight, maybe we'll turn left, maybe we'll turn right, and go straight again, then left, then once again left, turn straight. Maybe we will create a complete racing track like this, and let's go right, then left, and straight. So how about this? This component tag is pure gold. I cannot really explain you how excited I am that Cine4D has such a superb high-end technical developing tool that is simply mind-blowingly fantastic. And every single of these templates inside is made with that component tag. That is superb. That is pure gold, and the possibilities are endless. You can create any, I mean any reusable asset because it uses everything inside Cine4D. There are no limits to what can be done and used and saved as a reusable asset. Now, once it is used through this template, it's pretty much straightforward. So if you disregard all this, you can simply build a road. So even people without any technical skills can use this. So this is a technical developer dream. Now, let me get rid of this character object. And the only problem, relatively speaking, is the amount of possibilities, commands, and settings under this drop-down menu. So this can become really complicated in a minimal amount of time. But if you plan to explore this guy, simply go slowly with this simple tag and insertion rules, and you can build up from there. Of course, for the ones that are really tech savvy, there is a Python code option, and never forget that every single of these menus will change according to what is selected. So for example, for controller, we have a smaller list. So although this is initially designed to build reusable character rigs, it can be used to build any reusable asset. Okay, so I hope you really enjoyed this one and that I haven't overcomplicated things, and let's continue with our next lesson.